Well, the last few days have seen an upsurge in violence between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants. And today, Lucy D., the mother of two British-Israeli sisters who were shot dead in the West Bank on Friday, also died of her wounds. Also today, the Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed a 15-year-old boy was killed by Israeli fire during an army raid in the occupied West Bank. Earlier, thousands of Israelis, led by at least 7 cabinet ministers, marched to a compound that had previously been left by Israeli settlers. The march is being seen as a signal that the right-wing government is determined to accelerate building settlements on occupied land. Well, joining me now from Jerusalem is Barkat, the Israeli Minister of Economy and Industry. Thank you very much for being with us. And the government you're a member of was elected on a platform of promising order and security, among other things. What happened to that promise? Because at the moment, you seem to have delivered the exact opposite.
Well, first of all, Mark, happy Passover, happy Easter, and Ramadan Kareem to all the viewers. Let me just emphasize on the family of 3 that were murdered this week, both British and Israeli citizens. They were murdered just because they're Jews. They immigrated to Israel 7 years ago. They wanted to live in the Holy Land, in the only Jewish democracy in the world. And you know what happened to the terrorist? He's been greeted with flowers and candy and give them shelter. And worst of all, they're going to be granted, this terrorist is going to be granted $1 million support by the Palestinian Authority for the rest of his life, which is totally absurd. This is the difference between us Jews living here and unfortunately the terrorists are trying to to terrorize us, and they think, unfortunately, they could throw us to the sea. Well, they can't, and we will be very strong and we will fight the terrorism in a very successful way.
But today, as I've just been reporting, a 15-year-old Palestinian boy has been shot dead by Israeli forces. I mean, you have flare-ups in violence in East Jerusalem, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, Lebanon. Isn't it inevitable, in part, that these sorts of things would happen when, as we saw there, Benjamin Netanyahu is so intent on carrying on with these settlements in the occupied West Bank?
Well, let's look at what happened last Friday. You know, Jerusalem is the most tolerant religious city practically in the world, of course in our region. And so millions of Christians, millions of Jews, and millions of Muslims go to the ancient city of Jerusalem to pray. And you know, if you want to pray in the Temple Mount, if you're a Muslim, you come with a Quran in your hand and you go and pray for God. But the militants that came there last Friday came with fireworks, sticks and stones, and they use them against the police. And they think, for the wrong reasons, that they can have a safe haven in the mosque. Well, they will not have any safe haven, and if they come to create havoc, the police will be there to stop them. Yeah. Similarly, unfortunately, the terrorists that sit in...
Sorry to interrupt. My question was about the settlements, and Benjamin Netanyahu saying after a meeting in Jordan, we're not freezing these settlements. Isn't that inflaming the situation? That was my question.
Well, you talked about the fact that unfortunately, some boys were killed today. I don't know if they were part of the violence, but the Israeli security forces go after the terrorists. We have no issue hurting innocent people. Unfortunately, the terrorists are within the population, and they hide behind innocent civilians. What we do is we try to target only the terrorists, and the terrorists try to hurt only civilians. And this is the biggest challenge we have. Now, terrorism is not only the Israeli problem. All the terrorists, and you know who the biggest supporter of terror around the world is, and of course that is Iran. They're supportive of Hezbollah in Lebanon, in Syria, in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza. So their goal is to use those proxies to target Israel. And what they want to do is eliminate us off the map. They want nuclear power in order to use it against the only Jewish state. And the conventional threat around Israel is just as bad. You have hundreds of thousands of missiles targeted at our cities and towns, innocent cities and towns. We don't share that view that we must, God forbid, what they do, which is killing innocent people. We only target the militants that we know have a goal to target innocent Israelis.
Yeah, well, a high number. You can't deny. No, sorry, Minister, you can't deny that a high number of civilians die in Israeli attacks as well. But I just want to pick you up on one point.
Well, the majority of them are. That's not true. Unfortunately, there's some collateral, and if you compare what we do to what happens in the rest of the world, once you go after terrorists, our goal is to have minimal collateral damage. And we're very professional doing that. We will hunt the terrorists and fight them wherever they are. Okay, before we have to end, I just want to talk to you about this problem, unprecedented upheaval in the country caused by your government's plan to undermine, or to overhaul rather, the judiciary. Do you think, given the protests that are continuing, that those plans will be ditched? Will they have to be ditched, do you think? Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu basically said that he wants to have more time to negotiate and settle this with at least people that think otherwise than us. And I want to tell you that I'm very proud of our democracy. You had your Brexit, where people were really moved, and there was a big, huge dilemma in London, in England. In America, sometimes you have between the Democrats and the Republicans. I'm proud of the fact that people are willing to go out to the street, demonstrate. They care about our country. Some of us believe we need the reforms to improve our democracy, something different. Otherwise, I know we will sort it out between us. Because we only have one Jewish democratic state. All right, and just briefly, finally, the poll today shows that the plummeting support for Netanyahu and Likud would lose more than a third of its seats if there was an election held now. Well, what can I tell you, Mark? The elections were just about half a year ago. There's no elections in sight. And right now, I believe we shall settle. We will settle. That's what the Prime Minister wants, and I believe that's what we're going to do. Okay. Settle this between us and the people that think otherwise, and focus together on security challenges and growing our economy. We're going to come out very strong from this crisis, because Israel has a lot to offer. On the economic side, we're the land of entrepreneurs, and our economy will go through this challenge and become extremely strong. And I recommend people to invest in Israel. All right. Every time people invested in Israel, they got a great return. We've got to leave it there. Nir Barkat, appreciate your time. Thanks very much. Thank you very much.